The B. Bowlersmart.com, trusted by bowlers around the world since 2004. By Lightning Strikes Bowl, home of Bowlers Mart Pro Shop. By Platinum Ford, drive the difference. By Fire Lake Bowling Center, 24 state-of-the-art lanes. By True Grit Coatings, drive on our passion. By Roll to Grip, king of them all. By 900 Global, striking worldwide.
Good morning. My webcam is shitty today because for whatever reason, my phone did not want to connect. I usually use the iPhone as part of the webcam setup, and this morning didn't want to work. So you don't get to see quite as much of how pretty this new fade I got is. But good morning, Stephanie and Simon. Trying to figure out things. Thanks for your wisdom. Well, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully I can provide some wisdom. My cohort, Barnsey, is currently bowling. We will briefly drop in and have a look at his scores, but I think he started off pretty well from what I heard. So, yeah. It is Thursday. Ryan, I appreciate the super chat. I'll get to you in a second. Vance, good morning. PD, what's going on? It's just Guy today. Just Guy. So Nico says, good morning. Well, the most brief man in the bowling industry. Have you read about bowling not being included in the World Games? I have. My understanding that this is actually not something we can blame the IBF for this time. I think that it's just that China doesn't think they'd win, so they're not going to host it. Those games things are always a little confusing. To me anyway. Joe, 7-Eleven Slurpee Day. Yep. Man, you Americans can come up with some names for some things. Gabriel, morning. Love, good morning. Stephen, woo! Morning, Blind Larry. Don't know how you type that, but I appreciate it. It's pretty funny. Tuning in, getting together for junior golf for my son. Well, good luck to him out there, and good luck to you surviving the week. Hey, Adam, what's going on, my man? Ryan, good morning, Stu. Do you have any 16-pound Rotogrip discontinued classics stashed in your that you might want to sell? Well, A, I can't sell them, but B, what are you looking for? Tell me what you're looking for, and we might see if I can figure something out for you. Glad you're doing okay. Hello from Singapore. Thanks for staying up. Good morning from New Zealand. Man, you guys are so far ahead. It's just mind-blowing. Yeah. Chris is up bowling the PBA 50 stop. Let me just pull up the scores. Let's see how he's getting on. He is in Hammond, Indiana. And after 2 games, he's numero uno. So let's have a look in on Chris. Share screen. PBA 50. So I imagine you can't see that worth anything. So there we go. Chris Barnes, 536. Brian Leclerc, 526. Sammy V is at 515. Curtis Anderson, 513. And Michael Harter, 506. And friend of the show, Eugene McCune, 496. So first time for everything for Barnesy, actually getting off to a good start. So yeah, interesting deal. My question is, if I drop a few pounds off my ball and increase my rev rate a bit, will that change my PAP? Maybe is the answer. It's all about what position your hand gets into at the foul line. So yes, it may change it because you might get your hand in a better or a worse spot with the lighter ball. But yeah, that's The answer is it depends. But hey, Chris, how you doing? Hopefully your arm is on the road to recovery. Chris is the owner of Fire Lake Bowling Center here, one of our sponsors, and bowled on the senior tour for a few weeks and managed to tear his bicep off. So not a good deal. Kirk, morning. Nice to see you out in Southern California. You're up early. God, my foot's itchy. Jason says his current Arsenal is Gem, X1, Phase 2, Zen, X2, Phase 3, IQ Tour, High Road, Inc. Oh, you got some classics there, that's for sure. Do you think the Xponent will give a similar shape to urethane? I find it difficult to spend 230 of, but no, I don't. I don't think it's going to be a similar shape to urethane. No, I think it's going to be one of those slightly weaker benchmark balls. So that's where I think it's going to fit. IQ Tour type of scenario, but a little more diff than the IQ Tour. So something in that range, I believe. And then David says, do you think that the Tour Dynamics will be a good replacement for urethane? Are you just asking the same question? I'm confused. I think the Tour Dynamics is going to be, I don't think it's going to be a replacement for urethane. I think it's just going to be a ball that you can use it's going to be a ball that you're going to use on the fresh. So in that regard, I guess urethane is a ball you can use on the fresh, but I don't think that the reactions are going to be that similar. Morning, Johnny. What's going on? Is it possible that some people don't match up well with asymmetrical balls? I like all my symmetrical pieces, but my reaction with my reality and exotic gem are terrible on both house and sport. Yes, it is possible, but I think what's more likely is two things. Getting your axis point right with asymmetrical balls is way more important. So I think maybe the axis point might be a little off. And also, with the asymmetrical balls being so much stronger and more dynamic, if there isn't enough push in the front part of the lane, you can see kind of really bad reactions. Whereas the symmetrical balls are a little slower reacting, so they're a bit more rounded. So that would be my best guess, that maybe you just hadn't encountered enough oil. Nico, I heard that for the World Championships in the Middle East, it was estimated $70,000 to $80,000 for 8 bowlers. That's why some countries have been like, no thanks. I think most of the countries that have been no thanks have nothing to do with the finances. It has everything to do with the regime of the IBF. So if you read through, most of the people are pulling out, not because it's in the Middle East and not because of the cost associated. I think it's because of the because they don't agree with the regime. And I think you're quite a bit high on the cost there. But I mean, I think people are going to say a lot of things. So Jason, good morning. First time, long time. Been waiting several months to ask an Arsenal question, but never seem to be able to. Is there any gaps in my Arsenal? What did I see it? I don't think I saw it. So did I? Were you the one I read out? Yeah, I don't see your Arsenal. So Andrew, do you think tucking your pinky could help with injury prevention and overall longevity? Had some inner forearm pain earlier this year and feel as though tucking the pinky is the main culprit. I'm a little confused. You said, do you think that tucking your pinky can help injury prevention? And then you tell me that tucking the pinky is the main culprit of the forearm injury. I'm a little confused. I'm a little confused on that one. Oh, I see. Sorry, Jason. Gem, X1, Phase 2, Zen, X2, Phase 3, IQ Tour Solid, High Road Inc. I think you've got a pretty decent mix. There might be a bit of a big gap between the Gem and the X1. That would be the only one. The only one. So someone with arm and wrist weakness, what's your opinion on dropping weights and carry? I think that you have to weigh up. You have to weigh up the pros and cons, right? So, for example, my wife moved down to 14 pounds because she needed more ball speed. So when she's done that, yeah, occasionally she loses some carry. You are going to lose carry. Like, there's no way that a 14-pound ball hits better than a 15-pound ball, and a 15-pound ball hits better than 16. That's just not real. But what is very real, and it was noticeable for me, is if you're able to create better shots with the lower weight, then overall you're going to come out as a net positive. So, like, for me, the main thing is what can I throw my best shot with? And if that is to be a slightly lighter ball, I think you're in a way better spot throwing the 14-pound ball and throwing better shots than you are throwing the 15-pound ball and getting better carry. You've just got to you've got to focus on, with 14-pound balls, in my opinion, you've really got to focus on getting the ball into a roll. The ones where the ball kind of skids into the pins aren't the ones really that are going to strike. You need to really get the ball more rolling. And if you do, then that's going to work out a little bit better, in my opinion. Men untucking. Well, I've never had an injury and I've tucked the whole time, so I don't know. I think the one thing you might see is when you tuck, it kind of twists your hand a little bit. So if, for example, your ring finger is really long and then you tuck, that might, because if you see when you tuck, your finger comes down a little bit. So that might put a little bit more strain on that finger. So maybe having a little more pitch or a slightly shorter span on your ring finger might relieve some of that pressure. Would be my best guess. Pretty much. Force equals mass times acceleration. Yeah, that's pretty much the deal. Timmy, if you need help, it's definitely a super chat. Just saying. I'm doing good, Jay. Thanks. Stu, I've loved many IQ tours. The last however many years I've thrown it, but sometimes I wish it was just a little bigger ball, if that makes sense. Do you think the tour dynamic can fill that hole? The problem is I can't tell you yet because I don't know. Because it's still in the box. Theoretically, though, it seems like it should be. Maybe the tour dynamics or the these balls are so confusing. Xponent might be another option as a step up. The Xponent kind of makes a little more sense to me, just because with the Xponent you've got a little more diff. But I might drill the tour dynamics today and then we can have a little chat about it. Stu, which release would you consider to being a sleeper ball that would be a good addition to the arsenal that typically gets overlooked? I don't know, because we didn't really release that many balls this time. I mean, I understand you're going to craze a bit, but I mean, we only released like 6. I think we only released 6 this time. So, I mean, it may well be, if we're talking about that, probably going to look at that Hustle RIP. I think that ball's going to be useful for a lot of people, especially with how much older the lane surfaces are getting. I think that's a ball that's going to hook quite a bit more than people think it is, just because it doesn't burn up. No problem, Jason. You're welcome. After spare shooting, what's my second biggest issue? Oof. I think I think being too rigid to your plan. I think with your engineering brain, you you think that everything should be the same each time. So you need to be more open to the lanes being different. If someone with high res but no tilt wanted to dabble in ASIMs, which direction would you point them towards? My main issue has always been the ball wanting to go forward when entering the pocket. Um, uh, um, that's a good question. I mean, like I don't have very much tilt, and I love asymmetrical balls. Maybe try a weaker main pin. So I use a lot of like 5.5 or 5 3/4 inch pins on asymmetrical balls with like a 4 to 4.5 inch mass bias, and that works quite well for me. Stu, which ball I should use if I can't make the right move? Yeah, that's always a difficult one. Morning, Dan. I see you showed the twins how to bowl this past weekend. Well, I mean, it was kind of like fishing the peanuts out of a yeah, you know what I'm going with that. None of us were very good. When I was the one showing him how to do it and I was 15th, that's not exactly great, is it? So Ryan, where are you at? You haven't got back to me. Let me know. Let me know what you were looking for. Would either Exotic Gem, Absolute Eternity, or Summit be the best gap filler between the Gem and the X1? If you like the Gem, I think the Summit is probably the best gap filler of those. Summit or Eternity. The Absolute is probably going to be closer to your X2. For me, I do it by knowing what all of the balls do. But you just got to look at it in a little bit of a logical standpoint. Look at the RGs and look at the covers, and then from there, it should be able to make a somewhat of a logical choice as to how to fill those in. So Chris has his formula for doing it. So it's kind of like, you know, he'll have a his big slow, his like heavy oil slow ball, his heavy oil fast ball, medium fast and slow, and then kind of dry lane fast and slow, and that's kind of how he puts them together. Not from what I'm understanding, but I haven't really had a chance to throw the Xponent. So I didn't particularly love the C4 that much. So with it having the C4 core, I kind of want to watch a few people throw that one before I kind of bother. But from what Chris described it as being, I would say the Xponent's closer to an IQ Tour than it is a Phase 2. We're going from 14 to 15 effect mechanics. Probably a little bit, but I think that you'll get used to it pretty quickly. When I change between 15 and 16, I can definitely see the difference, but it's kind of like riding a bike. You get that once you can get your flat spot back in, then it's pretty good. Would you and Chris do a bowling tier list one of these days? Sure. I mean, it seems like people like them on YouTube. I just haven't really. I guess maybe someone can suggest what the best software is to use to make tier lists. Yeah, I mean, I did them on sport patterns. Doing them on PBA patterns is kind of like one of those things where it's like, I mean, mine was on PBA patterns. It's a little harder for Chris to get access to the PBA patterns, but when I did the video, less people watched it, so I don't know what to tell you. But if you want to check out, we have got Zen videos up right now. Chris has got his Xponent videos. They're not doing great, which I was kind of surprised. I thought the whole world would want to know about the gold label, but I think that some of that got changed because people saw a lot of info from Bowl Expo, so they weren't as excited about it. So, yeah. So anyway, that was sorry, I'm just trying to fix something that Chris messed up. So sorry, let me get back to questions. Thanks, Justin. Appreciate it. I'll check out Tier Maker. Yeah. That should say me. Justin, would using a Pearl Ball be a good option to start on a house shot? You know what I'm going to tell you? It depends. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I mean, like, and not all Pearl Balls are built the same. Like, so for me, Absolute on the fresh, absolutely. Zen on the fresh, absolutely. High Road Pearl on the fresh, absolutely not. So it all really depends. I probably wouldn't use the gold label on the fresh. I think it's pretty angular. Yep, clone in action. Yep, should be entertaining. That tier list thing is just a website, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure they are. But you can create the things on the website. So when you're doing it. Gold label reminds me a lot of the dark code. It doesn't really for me, just in color. Everybody likes that kind of dark color ball. Hey, Natural. Staffer in South Florida. I was able to throw the new releases. Have you thrown the Tour Dynamics? I have not. It's still in the box. The one I was able to throw got me excited as a future staple when urethane goes away. Yeah, it does feel a little bit like it could be an option when people aren't using urethane. I'm not sure how much play it's going to get when people can still use urethane at the minute, but we shall see. Yeah, that might be a fun way of doing it. I'd have to get my camera fixed though, because this camera is absolute trash. Hey Ryan, appreciate you. Thanks a lot. All good here. Yeah, everything's going good. How's stuff with you? What balls am I bringing to the LBC? I don't know. By the looks of it, the house shot specials. I would think that I will take a spare ball reality, probably a couple of absolutes, Zen Gold label, phase 2. I can take 9, so quite a few. Might take that Hustle RIP as we're bowling the tour squad. So I'm sure our lanes are going to get broken down way more than a lot of the others. So probably take that. Maybe take the reality check. I might just look up recently what I've shot 300 with and take all of those. Revenant actually looked pretty good when I was there for the World Series, so I might drill a fresh Revenant as well. I think that the main tell of when the ball is dead and needs to be replaced is you feel like it's hooking. It feels like it hooks earlier, but is way smoother down the lane, and the way it goes through the pins. It sucks, but the new balls just go through the pins that little bit better. They like are a little sharper off the spot. It's not like it's necessarily a thing that means that you have to change them. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that there is a little bit of an advantage to the newer balls. And it's just the way it kind of goes. But for me, when you see that ball pick up, feel like it picks up way earlier and it's just super smooth down the lane, and it doesn't, like, if you miss in the oil, it doesn't feel like it picks up, and if you miss to the dry, it kind of like it just is really slow coming off the friction. That's when I think that they're kind of like getting towards their end. You can just use them differently. When a ball goes like that, you're going to use it more as a ball on the fresh, maybe a little more surface. So, morning, Michael. Thanks for the super chat. Have you dealt with wrist pain in your career? If so, do you have any exercise routines that help alleviate it? My nutters have been far less huge of late. Somebody watched the show when we were on with Ryan and with Luis. I have actually been quite fortunate. I haven't, but overall, I think that the key for me for not having that is I haven't really ever had a very stretched grip. So I think that's helped me a lot. For the guys who do deal with wrist pain, I just think that, like, having just a slightly more relaxed grip and have a look at some of the options for taping your wrist. Don't look at what the pros do. Kind of have a look at what people do on some of the videos online. There's so many videos, like KT Tape have a bunch of videos. To try and like release pressure on that point. The only time I ever have any wrist issues is like RSIs, from like you like using a weird, like a mouse or a weird angle or something. So that's about the only time I ever have it. But just in general, whenever I have aches and pains from bowling, ice is nearly always my friend. So I know that wasn't particularly helpful, and I appreciate you for the super chat. But yeah, that was about all I can offer. I'm sorry. Scott Anderson, my Zen goal label lies today. I know you mentioned drill and pin up versus pin down one. What did you see that wanted the difference to be the next one? I think it was Chris who spoke about that. Chris, because it was so quick, Chris drilled one pin down to try and have like a more of a longer, more continuous reaction, because Chris has a lot of troubles when the ball stands up really quick in the front part of the lane and then gets forward. And we were a little afraid that this ball might do that because of how responsive it was. I probably wouldn't have done it on the first one just because for comparison's sakes. But that's why we did it that way. But anyway, just that's why I did it that way. Idle pearl fused. I'll have a look. I might have a fused. Picking your brains here, right, regarding lane play stuff. If you are using urethane and you're following urethane with higher rev rates, do you see early hook and forward roll leaving 2-pin combinations? What would you do? Yes, I see that quite often. The best scenario for that, for me at that point, is to try and get out of the urethane and try and get left of that bad spot in the front part of the lane, using trying to get the ball to pick up, using a stronger ball. National tournament question for you. As a league bowler who has bowled nationals 4 times, now I think the regular division average should be 190 or above. What is your opinion? I think that there isn't anybody in the top division already. So I don't really know what they would do at that point. I think it's like 40, 40, 20 anyway, percentage wise. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Because it's not really 190, is it? It's a sport average of 190, which is over 200. Like, say, a sport average of 175, which I believe is like over 200 anyway. So the lanes are very difficult there. I think the thing is if you moved it to 190 based on the tournament average, you'd have a bunch of people who were upset at the next level. Like, no matter where you split the divisions, you're always going to have an issue. There you go. Jason says try the copper fit. Maybe that's an option. I use copper fit insoles. How do you know what pin placement is best for you without drilling 100 balls? I think you've got to match up the flare to your rev rate. If you have a higher rev rate, you're probably going to want to wait, let me rephrase this. You've got to match up like speed and rev rate. So like for me, it is about experimenting, but you don't really need to experiment with 100 balls. I mean, probably two or three would get you to a point, because really you're going to be something. Basically now, anything with the balls the way they are, anything with a pin less than between like 4 1/4 and 3 3/8 is, especially for the strong balls, is almost pointless. Because it's just going to flare out because the balls are so strong for almost everybody. So you're looking at really between 4 1/4 and like 5.5 to find out what's the best. So what you really need to do is just speak to your pro shop operator. And based on the balls you have and what you like, he should be able to dial in something that makes the most sense for you. Any chance of having Nate and Elise on as guests? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I don't know what. Maybe if one of them wins a national title or something. I just don't know how much interest there would be in that. But yeah. How do you attack the lanes when you open bowl and there's been a ton of plastic thrown? Cry. If you're bowling on that, you've really got to make sure you get the ball right and get around that oil down the lane. But it can be very frustrating. No, he didn't. He just won a regional. Like, it was like a million miles away from a national title. It was a regional. Sorry, we were talking about the open ball. So basically, most times when the open ball has occurred, the oil will be straight down the middle of the lane between like 15 and 15 on both sides. So it's really about getting your angle steep enough to use the house shot to the dry on the house shot to the right. It can be kind of frustrating. You need to like throw it slow enough that you can get it to come around. And that's pretty much the way it was. Yeah, it's not a great scenario to practice on. Yeah, you could probably leave a few washouts on that. Again, Jason, like, they're cool people, they're doing cool stuff on YouTube, but that's not really sorry, Justin. That's not really our niche. Interviewing league bowlers. So I mean, I think some of the stuff they're doing is cool, and good luck to them, but that's not really the people that the that like our show is focusing in on, or not the direction I'm taking it anyway. Pin down a symmetrical rolls awful for me. Join the club. It rolls awful for almost everybody. Especially if you've got a higher track. Now you can't put balance holes in. Symmetrical balls down is just, it's just not that great an idea. You have to drill them really pretty strong, and hopefully it's a pretty strong ball overall. But yeah, I tend to avoid drilling symmetrical balls down, except in like the really odd cases like the Summit, because it's so strong. Will, good morning, Stu. I have the Absolute. Is it advisable to have another hybrid such as the Summit? After all, they are different. The Summit and the Absolute are massively different. Like, not even in the same, like, not even in the same, like, world. So yes, I think that they could be a good option. Hey Dylan, sorry. No, I don't use vacuum grips, and neither does Chris. Jamal, hey, what's going on? Thanks again for the super chat. I appreciate you. Still nothing on the clone in terms of thoughts. Boulder Tawny on an unknown pattern. Should I bring urethane just in case? Absolutely, you should bring urethane. You should always bring urethane because if it's in play, you're going to really need it the first couple of games. I haven't, like I say, the clone is still here. As we can't really put videos up on them until July the 28th. It kind of just is pointless from my point of view in drilling them. I hate having a ball that I love that I can't throw. So it's easier just not to drill them. But I will probably be drilling them in the next couple of weeks, in the next week or so. But yeah, I can't use them. I can use them in leagues and whatever, but I think it just ends up pissing people off when you have a ball and they can't get it, and it just doesn't help anything. Is there an overlay? Axiom, Helios, and Summit. I have the former two. The Summit is going to be as close as you can get as a replacement for the Axiom. If you having had the Axiom for quite a while, if you were to polish the Axiom and have the Summit dull, you'd have a pretty decent gap between them. Tim and Norm on every week. Yeah. I'm not sure Norm is interested in coming on the show every week, but yeah, he's definitely worth the price of admission. Hey, Christine, what are some of Tina's favorite balls she's using? She really likes the Reality, Absolute, and the Ruby. They're three of her favorites right now. Chris is watching the show instead of bowling. He said that the Zen Gold label, him and Ryan just want to rename balls. The Zen Gold label. Ryan just refers to it as the Zen Gold, like he had, what was it? The Wolverine Moss. Just takes words out. Yeah. She's 536 for the first two. Can you use the clone and then tour at the Lucy? I imagine that we're probably going to be able to, yes. The ladies will be able to because they're USB-C approved, but they haven't been PBA approved yet. It's always a little odd because a few weeks ago, the Summit was approved PBA, but it wasn't approved USB-C. So it's just a little strange the way it works, but yeah, I guess. Yeah, Norm is always a hoot. He does very well at all of those appearances. He's great, really great ambassador for the sport. Good replacement for the hyped solid. This the new Xponent might be a decent gap filler for that, and it says the hyped hybrid. I guess you might be into an electrify for the hyped hybrid. Yeah, it might be an electrify. Yeah, I'm not really 100% sure on the hyped hybrid because the hyped hybrid was quite strong for what it was. Yeah, but for the hyped solid, I think that the Xponent's probably going to be the closest thing. Weird question. Looking to pick up the Rotogrip All-Star jersey. What size jersey? I wear a triple XL, but I get them to take 2 inches off. So if you're a little taller than me, a triple is that they just come pretty long. So if you like tucking it in, a triple will be fine. When you do order it though, when you get to checkout, and a beef stew 10% off. 10% off. So beef stew 10% off. Did I watch Barnes Bowl at the LBC? No, but I saw I saw him shoot 300. Like I saw some of the video of him shooting 300. The high road. So the high road's been around longer. The phase 2 is what we're looking at, about 7 years for the phase 2. So there's a few. Barnsey saying the Xponent is slightly longer and more angular than the Hype Solid. I'd have to go to Chris's knowledge upon that because Chris has thrown that ball. Very shot 50. Yep, I saw that. It's kind of weird, like trying to keep track of the scores on that though, because I went on the website and it said go into your profile. It was a bit weird. What's a good replacement for the X1? Right now, there isn't really one. I would have said the Infinite Physics was a pretty decent response. A pretty decent replacement, should I say. But now, thank you. God damn it. I do all these things and I get everything right. And I just don't like. Robert Eddy, thanks for reminding me. I've got this set up and everything, but I had issues with my computer. So I had to reset everything. I've got a tournament that I need to share. So let me just do that. Let me do that. There we go. So Eddie Foods is sponsoring another tournament at Lightning Strikes. It's going to be a doozy. There it is. Here it comes. So fun times. 19th of August. It's right before the PBA 50 Bowl. Everybody's welcome. They're using the Amuleto Monticelli pattern. But like I say, a bunch of money added, $5,000 added. Lightning Strikes. I might even go if we maybe if you're in the Lightning Strikes area, let's give a shout out. What are we thinking? Do we want a Chris Barnes clinic beforehand? Maybe that's what we need. A Chris Barnes. What do you think, Eddie? A Chris Barnes clinic before the tournament? I think that might be the answer. I'll have a look at my calendar. Eddie's smiling. I'll have a look at my calendar. Maybe I can make the trip out for this one. But anyway, from my experiences, it's always been a good time down at Lightning Strikes. I've been down there a couple of times. Great food in the restaurant. They run great tournaments. Everything's cool. 5,000 added as well. So you might want to check that out. Lightning Strikes have a Facebook page. So if you have any questions, just hit up the Lightning Strikes Facebook page, and I am sure you will get an answer pretty quickly. So, yes. Did you see the mislabeled Summit? It's a Summit poor colors, but labeled as a Rotogrip Hustle. No, I didn't see it. Those things happen every now and again, but no, I didn't see it. He says he needs to see a picture of it. I will be coming to Portland, Maine. Yes, we can try. Like I say, Adam, you ask me this question every week. Yes, we can try and sort it out. We never don't need it. Well, if you do need it and you're in that area down by Fort Myers, send the Lightning Strikes Facebook page a message. Tell them you want a Chris Barnes clinic. Tell them that you'd be willing to show up, and we will try and put something together. Didn't even know Monticelli had his own pattern. Any good memories or moments with Amuleto that you remember? Well, I remember that we roomed with Amuleto. Dom roomed with Amuleto, and Amleto kept waking me up super early and making coffee, and Dom's like, "Just switch off the fucking lights." I'm like, "Oh, I'm trying to sleep." So, so yeah, so it was everything was everything was good with that. We had a good time. I remember asking Amleto why his PBA number was so long, um, because I'd met Carmen and his PBA number was like 9. So I was like, why isn't yours like 15 or something, Amleto? And Amleto's reaction was, fuck you, rookie. So yeah, so that's been that's been one of my favorites. Amleto's always been really kind with us. Yeah. I think Dom doesn't mind getting out of bed. I just don't know that he wanted to get out of bed at quite the times that Amleto did. And Amleto wasn't kind of on our schedule. He didn't understand the Amleto, we're leaving. Oh no, I'll just do this. No. We're leaving. Get an Uber. He wasn't necessarily interested in being on the group schedule. Wasn't particularly flexible. What would the beef stew pattern be if you had one? I think that if I had one, it wouldn't go through a machine. I'd get my man Chris Skillens to oil it with the spray gun. I think that would be the most fun. What was your break point for singles and doubles at nationals? Well, when I bowled the doubles, I didn't do a very good job. I ended up having to use urethane, and it just didn't work out very well. I ended up really just setting the lane up for singles, and then I created some hold around 10. So I actually had my break point a little further right than that because I felt like by using a slightly slower speed and getting my break point a little further right, maybe like 5-6, it made it a little easier. When I misleft it, I had more chance of holding. So that was kind of the direction I went with it. So yeah. Back in the day, I had a black AMF Cobra, but I had the gray King Cobra stamp on it. Oh, okay. I remember the King Cobra. I mean, I obviously remember the Cobra, but the King Cobra, I remember that one. Tips to avoid pulling shots and projecting the ball onto the target. Pulling the shots is generally when you get a little late with your timing and you don't let the ball come through. So if you're a little, if you kind of wait for it, and then that tends to be, don't over rotate your shoulder. That tends to help you with pulling the ball. No, I just think it's going to be different. I don't think it's going to be the end of bowling. So it's lightning. Scott Anderson says he'll be there. Yes, I'm bowling the Iron Man. Is the Zen Gold label sharper down the lane than the Revenant? No, probably not. The Revenant's probably still more angular. But the Revenant's further down the lane, so they might be the same overall, like the same like quickness, but the Revenant's further down the lane, so it has less time to make that overall hook. No alphas, no. Yeah, no problem. I thought you would. I thought you were taking the piss out of my accent. No, Lightning Strikes is in Florida, like Chris says. Lightning Strikes in Fort Myers, Florida. Right next to the Reality Strike. Yeah. How do you think the Zen Gold compares to the UC2? They're not really that comparable. For me, the UC2, with it being asymmetrical, stands up a little harder and gets way more forward down the lane. The Zen Gold is more continuous for me. I can't, but I did. But there is Prime Day is today, and I ordered a fan online. And it's about, I think it's about 4 or 5 inches by 10 inches. And it was $40, but it's got a 20,000 milliamp battery in it, so you can charge your phone, but you can also recharge it via like USB-C or whatever. So it looked like a pretty good deal, and it was only $40. All of the ones from like Makita or Ryobi or all of those, the most expensive part is the battery. The fans aren't that bad, but the batteries kill you. So has Chris Vi whooped you yet? No, Chris actually messaged me. We had a pretty nice back and forth. No, Chris was a good sport. So I'm quite lucky because he could throw me down the lane probably. So all right, well, I don't have anything really more to answer. So I appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. We won't have we might have a show on Thursday. I'm not 100% sure of the timings of my flight up north, but I should be back. I think I should be able to get a show in on Thursday. But thanks for tuning in. Please head over to our YouTube channel. Hit the like button. Subscribe. And check out the latest bull videos. If you like what you see, there is a link in the description that you can that you can click on, and it'll take you to Bowlers Mart, and we'll get a little bit of a kickback for it. Unfortunately, we can't get a discount code. It's just the way the world works with the bowling industry, but it'll help us out. So if you want to order online, please use Bowlers Mart. With that, thanks to the sponsors who support us: Storm, Rotogrip, 900 Global, Coolwick, Bowlers Mart, as we just mentioned, Fire Lake Bowling Center, Platinum Ford, and of course, our friend Robert Eddy at Lightning Strikes. Thanks for watching. Keep bowling good, and I will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye now.